What's up, guys? My name is Rob, and this is Rob on the Run podcast, a running podcast for all healthy lifestyles. And today, this is a very, very special episode. We have Hillary, of course, and it's a special episode because we both ran Berlin, the Berlin Marathon. So we wanted to make a special episode just to talk about our experiences, what went right, what went wrong, what we love, what we didn't love, if there's anything that we didn't love. But definitely just a real recap, I guess, on our personal experiences from hers and mine. So Hillary, how you doing today? How's the recovery going?
Hey, I am good. I feel like I'm finally fully recovered, not just from running the actual race, but the whole traveling overseas.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think that did a little bit more on my energy level than the race itself.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm finally kind of back to normal.
Yeah. It's my first time being on a plane for that long.
Me too,
Uh,
yeah.
I mean, I go to Vegas a lot. Well, I used to go to Vegas a lot, and it's like a 3 hour trip from here to Vegas. And by hour one and a half, two, I'm already, going crazy. So from going from 3 hour trips to a 9 hour trip, it was, yeah, it definitely was an experience for me. And um, I guess I have some better idea on what to do next time when because I need to go to London to go run the London Marathon, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So I definitely learned a couple things, but
Y'all
tell,
have direct flights though from Houston, right? You can get to Europe
I
direct.
think so. I think so. We also figured another way, kind of from a friend of ours. He kind of breaks his trips into two parts. Like he'll fly somewhere in Europe or somewhere um, halfway, I guess, and then take maybe a day or two there, and then fly the other half to wherever you're going. In this case, would have been Berlin. But yeah, it was an experience, man. It was definitely an experience, man. It definitely showed my capability of being able to sit down on a plane. But tell me about your trip. I know the last time I had you here, you had some special things going on. So how did that go, adding a marathon at the end?
It was awesome. It was so tiring. I think I was a little bit overambitious going into the training cycles. So the original thing that brought me to Europe in the first place was my best friend getting married in Portugal on the 21st of
Nice.
September. And
Nice.
so when she sent out her save the dates, I already knew when Berlin was. And so that's when I was like, oh, wow, if I'm going to be on the correct continent
Yeah.
1 week before this race, I have to make it happen. And I knew Berlin was a fast course, so I
Hmm.
also decided I wasn't thinking about all the millions of things that I would be doing before the race, but I was like, this will
Yeah.
be my goal race. This is gonna be a PR race for me. And so we went to Portugal. We did the wedding. We did just a little bit in Lisbon. Most of the stuff we did in Portugal was wedding related. It was awesome. Portuguese people go insane on food for weddings. I have never
Nice.
been to any event that has had this amount of food. Like it was plated appetizers like the equivalent of like two meals.
Oh, wow.
And these are big
Hmm.
appetizers. And then a three-course seated meal. And then we go to the like reception, the dancing part. They
Hmm.
had a full buffet and then they did past food as well. And it was the most random food also. We're on the dance floor and they were bringing like bowls of soup and like little plates of scrambled eggs. Like I don't know how traditional this is for, I don't know a ton about Portuguese
Yeah.
culture, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
It was awesome though. Then we did one day in Madrid. We
Nice.
found because we were going to Switzerland, and
Hmm.
we found a flight option that had a stopover for 22 hours in
Oh, wow.
Madrid. So we're like, let's add Spain to the itinerary, and so we did. We did. I have a friend actually from Instagram.
Hmm.
Who's also a runner and who lives over there. So he did a walking tour for us. So immediately went from the wedding to being on our feet all day in Spain, and it was great. Then we finished our flight over to Switzerland. We went hiking in the Alps.
Wow.
And then we went from Switzerland to Munich. We did some walking tours. We went to not Wurstfest. That's what we have here in Texas. No, we went to Oktoberfest.
Yes.
Again, on our feet, like 12 hours a day. And then went over to Berlin, spent the entire day before the race, also on our feet doing tourist
Hmm.
things. So essentially, going into the race itself, it wasn't running, it was walking and hiking, but
Hmm.
probably I topped what my peak week was in actual marathon training,
Hmm.
the week of the race. So when I was supposed to be tapering, I did
Yeah.
none of that.
Wow.
Yeah, and by the time I got to the expo, my legs were killing me.
Yeah.
Like it was, and so that was the point where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna run this race for fun.
Hmm.
A PR is out of the question, and so I'm just gonna enjoy it. I'm not gonna pay attention to my time and
Yeah.
all of that. So
Yeah, no, and me and my fiance vicariously were living through you on your on everything you posted on social media, and it definitely looked like fun. I think if I was in your shoes, I probably would have done that or worse, just because it looked like fun. You can tell you were having fun. Everything looked fun, and even at that, I think at the last time you were here, you were telling me that basically this was also kind of like your honeymoon,
it was, yeah, it was.
so.
So we got married last October. And we did not immediately take a honeymoon or anything. We got married in New Hampshire, so it was a destination wedding to
Hmm.
begin with, and so we were like, well, we'll delay it. We'll go on a honeymoon at some point, and then with my friend's wedding, and then with Berlin, we're like, the middle part will be our honeymoon. So it was a triple threat of a trip, but it was
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
No, like I said, it looked like fun. Fortunately, I am very jealous. I guess I shouldn't be unfortunate. Fortunate, I don't know. I'm jealous just because one of the biggest things that I wanted to do is go to Oktoberfest. And this is because a couple days before we left, we watched Beer Fest. I don't know if you've ever watched
Oh
that
yeah,
movie.
oh
And
yeah,
of
absolutely,
course that really got the motor going, but
yeah.
we just couldn't justify the 8 hour round trip from Berlin all the way and back and forward. We would lose 8 hours of the day, and to do it in
Oh yeah,
a day trip
yeah.
would not have worked. So we kind of lived vicariously through you and your experiences, and it looked like it was fun. And I wanted to buy what is it called, Lederhosen,
Oh
because
yeah.
I wanted to wear one of those,
Yeah.
but I guess that's gonna have to wait till next time we do Berlin, or I do Berlin
Yeah.
again. But yeah, my training, I've learned from in the past, like New York. I left when I did New York a couple years ago. I left like 4 or 5 days before the run. Sorry, and I did a lot of sightseeing. I put a whole like 30,000, 20,000 steps, 25,000 steps every day, and then the day of the race, I felt really tired. So this time around, given that we were gonna fly, I made sure that I went to the expo, which I wanna get your insight or what you thought about the expo in a little bit. But we went to the expo. I waited for a little bit. Unfortunately for me, there was some technical issues to let us in. But I definitely kept it under like 10, 15,000 steps because I said, you know what? I learned my lesson. I need to definitely just relax. So the first 2 days that we were there was expo, food, and really hotel. We were sitting most of the time, or stretching and doing all the other stuff to try to stay as relaxed as we could. But um, I went with wanting to PR. My best race was in New York at 4:36, if I'm not mistaken, and my goal was at least 4:25. And I felt really good. My training went as good as possible. There was some long runs, unfortunately, that I could not do for, personal reasons, and some, life gets in the way, of course. But I felt very well training wise. But in my case, I got cramps at like mile 21, and that
Oh, okay.
really, really, really took a hit in my time. But after time that passed, I realized it was still a good race. I actually finished the second best marathon.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so it was good. I finished it like at 4:45 and somewhere
That's
around
awesome.
there. but it was a great experience. It felt great. The crowd support is one of the best that I've done other than New York. I don't think nobody will ever top New York. Maybe Boston. I haven't done that one, so I don't know.
Boston
Um,
is fantastic with crowd support. People are along the entire course, and it's like little towns and
hmm
stuff. So it's a
hmm
lot of the people that like the local businesses and everything. And but I have not run New York. That is coming up
Oh yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
2 weeks.
Oh my
So
God,
that's or 3 weeks, whatever. What, two and a half?
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. And so
And I got major FOMO because after our trip, we made a stop in New York. It was maybe
oh, okay.
October 3rd or 4th.
Mhm.
And of course, that at that point, I think it was right a month before the New York
Yeah,
City Marathon. And of course, we went to Manhattan, and I passed by most of the parts that you run in, and I'm like,
yeah,
man, I should have figured a way to run this race this year, but wishful thinking. But
yeah.
it definitely gave me a little FOMO, and it's weather. Hopefully, it's good for you guys. I hope you it's nice and cold. It should be,
I mean,
you know.
here's the thing. It's like, we train in Texas over the summer. And
Yeah,
that's what I told I have three runners that are doing New York City as
nice.
well. And then obviously I'm running it.
hmm
And what I told them this summer, we in the beginning of August, I ran a half marathon with them just as a training run.
hmm
And it was pretty terrible. It was that day, it got above 100. The humidity was about 80%.
Yeah.
Just typical horrible Texas summer. And I told them, whatever it feels like at New York City will be better than this.
Yeah,
Whatever the hottest day on record that New York City has in November
yeah,
is better than what it's going to be in the summer in Texas.
for
So
sure.
whatever it is, it's nothing we haven't run in before.
Yeah, no, and then for sure. I actually ran it in 2022, which was very warm. I wouldn't say hot because, like you said, we come from
Yeah.
the worst that it can get, I guess. I feel like it. I'm pretty sure there's somewhere else that's worse, but
No,
and it
no,
was
this is pretty much as bad as it gets. I grew up in Arizona.
yeah,
So I lived in the other kind of heat,
yeah,
and it's more pleasant to run without the humidity, even
yeah.
if the temperature's higher. So no, we have it the worst. We have it the worst.
Yeah, so it was hot, but it was manageable.
Yeah.
You just have to change sometimes a little bit on your strategies, but it was manageable. So I'm hoping either way you guys get some nice weather, so all that
Yeah.
heat training really pays off even more.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
But it's a
absolutely.
fun race, and this will be what your fourth star, right?
My third.
Your third. Oh, okay. So you have
Yes.
not done Chicago either?
I have not, but
Oh, wow.
I would like to do it next year. So
hmm
that is what I'm hoping for number four.
Nice, 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 nice. It's a good race. I've done it. It's fun. I think the crowd support definitely looked much better this year. I saw some of the videos and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that that happens to y'all too. But going back here to Berlin, so how did you feel the day of the race? Race day, you're there. I did see on your social media that you had a couple little issues here and there before getting to
Yeah.
your corral.
I did. I sure did. And so there were a bunch of people that I was like, oh, I'll get to the corral early enough and I'll meet people.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, even if I had gotten there on
Mm-hmm.
time, I had no service, so there's no way I would
Yeah.
have found you or anybody else,
Yeah.
unless I just happened to stumble upon you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't think about that part, which I guess makes sense because that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
But I felt like I got this really good handle of the bus system in Berlin, and we had been taking the bus the 2 days before. The Airbnb that we were staying at was near the 16th kilometer marker on the course. So it was literally right there. And so I was like, oh, okay, cool. This is great. The bus goes right to where I need to start, and it drops me off right where right where I'm staying. So this is great. And I totally forgot about the whole fact that the buses would not be doing
Yeah.
that route
Yeah.
when there was an active race going on, because obviously we started multiple hours after the wheelchair races and after the
Mm-hmm.
elite races. It was very much an active course when I was trying to go
Yeah.
there, and so after a bit, I realized the bus was not coming. And I was like, oh, okay, I can't, I'm not going. And I was about like 6 kilometers from the start.
Okay.
And so I wasn't going to run that.
Yeah.
That was not an option.
Yeah.
And so I was like, how do I get there? Do I just walk? Um, and I decided to take one of those rental bicycles
Hmm.
because they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And just looking at Google Maps, it was the by far the fastest way to get there. Was biking.
Yeah.
And so I got one of those bikes and there's bike lanes everywhere. It was
Yeah.
very bike friendly. The only problem was once I got to the start line, and I had no problem with navigation and everything.
Hmm.
My maps took me there. It was working great. I got there. The where you go line up is in sight. And then the app because there was no service at the start, the app would not let me park this bicycle.
Oh
And I'm
my
like,
God.
I'm in an actual parking area. Like, let me park this, and it just wouldn't. And if I just abandoned the bike, it would just charge me for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
and think that I was still on that bike like right now.
Yeah.
And so like, so I drive back the other direction all the way until I get service, which
Yeah.
ended up being close to a
Oh
mile.
my
It
God.
was yeah, it was a bit. It was so I could see the start line and then I could see the start line disappearing. And so eventually I got to where the app would let me park it. And then I walked back
Yeah.
and I mean this was still 30 minutes before the start time. Like
Wow. You still
I
had
was not
time.
at risk of not starting.
Yeah.
But it was much later than I was hoping to get to get to the start line.
Yeah, that's crazy. I remember you telling us about that, and I was like, man, I would have panicked. So you did a good job because my once my anxiety levels go up, forget it. I shut down, and I would have probably said, you know what, I'm just not gonna run it anymore or something like that. So I'm glad you were able to control yourself. But yeah, I had my fiance doing the logistical part. She's better than me
Oh,
on that.
that's good.
And
Yeah.
so we stayed in a hotel that was roughly about a mile away from the start. And
Okay.
so by the time we
You're smarter than I am. Because even
yeah.
if you walked the whole thing,
Oh
it
no,
would have
she
been
she is smarter than me for sure
yeah.
because I probably would have done the dumbest thing just so you can understand how dumb I am. The one time I did New York without her, New York City Marathon, I decided to stay in New Jersey
Oh,
and
yikes.
take the train over there, not realizing that the train in New Jersey does not start till 6 in the morning. So yeah, so that's how bad I am. So having her really helps out with the logistical parts. She
Yeah.
figured it out. She said this is what we need to do. This is the time we need to wake up if you want to be there at least an hour before your corral starts moving. So I was there by like 8:30, around 8:30 in the morning. We walked. It was nice. A good little walk to start up, warm up, I guess. And yeah, the crowds were ridiculous. They were, oh my God, it was a sea of people,
Yeah.
you know. And I really do like that they started them staggered the way they did. It
Yeah.
really helped out a lot.
Yeah.
I got to do the whole clap thing that they.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
It was so awesome. Yeah, yeah, it was
Oh,
awesome.
I think I have my animal. I don't know where he is. Did you
Yeah.
get one of those?
No, I did
The
not,
creature.
unfortunately. After I saw it, it was too late. I think they either sold out or they weren't selling it. I don't know.
I only
But
have one because I bought it for my daughter and she's terrified of it. So I now have it.
no, but it
Like,
was
what the
fun.
hell is that?
Yeah, it's nice, and I hopefully maybe I can find it on eBay,
Yeah.
maybe. But
Yeah.
at least the beginning of the marathon, the whole corral thing, it was very well organized. I was shocked how well organized it was,
Yeah.
and it was very easy to figure out where you have to go. So that kudos to the volunteers and the race because they made it very easy. And that's because there was way more people than even in New York when I did it. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Um, it started right around the time that it was supposed to. But the funny part, I don't know if you had that same issue, but when you get that card or race card or whatever they call it, Mine said 9:10.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. And I even thought maybe that's way early. Like that's where
Yeah.
the like elites and the first corrals were gonna start. So I was like, well, maybe they're gonna start earlier, but I started like around 10, 11, so it was fine. And with you, how was once the race started, what was the experience compared to your other marathons you've done?
So it was by far the most people,
Hmm.
by like a lot.
Yeah.
I think the only thing close would be Boston, and that's still 20,000 less,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, when I did Boston, I think it was like 30,000 people. So this was almost double that.
Hmm.
I've never done anything even close to the size of this.
Yeah.
Um, it was not the worst congestion that I've had at the beginning of a race. Honestly, Rock
Yeah.
and Roll San Antonio has been worse than this,
Hmm.
and there's only 10,000 runners for that one. um, but again, there's a reason why Rock and Roll San Antonio is not a world major.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great race, I love it. It's my city race, but obviously it's not the same sort of organization and everything. So
For
I
sure.
was surprised that it was not as, I mean, granted, I was not going out very fast.
Hmm.
I actually, my first mile was probably my slowest, because I was trying to kind of set the tone for everything and go out easy.
Hmm.
But it wasn't as bad as I was expecting as far as being able to navigate around people and,
Yeah.
people going slowly, going quickly, other people trying to weave around you, stuff like that. It was not as bad as I was expecting.
Yeah, no, I agree. It wasn't as bad. At first I was skeptical because of the amount of people.
Yeah,
And even doing New York, remembering how they stagger as well, and they start you on one side of the on the bottom or the top of the Verzano Bridge. It was still kind of congested at the beginning. And I thought, well, if that happens in New York, it's probably going to happen too here. But no, it was
yeah,
very well. I could keep my pace that I was looking for in the first 4 or 5 miles, where I didn't have to slow down because I was weaving through people. It was
yeah,
very, very well organized. I absolutely love the start when you pass through that runabout. I forget what it's called right now, but
yeah. That monument thing with the gold
yeah,
thing. I don't
yeah.
know what that's called.
It reminds me a lot of the one that's in Mexico City.
Yeah,
They have
yeah,
one in Mexico City,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
it's almost the same.
With
So,
the eagle and all that. Yeah,
hmm, hmm. And it to me it was astonishing that you can actually have so many people running, and you could still, keep your race, whatever you're running. If you're running
yeah,
fast, slow, in the middle, whatever. And it was amazing for me to do that and be able to keep that pace, and the whole route for me was nice. It was nice and cold. I ended up having to take off my long sleeve that I had under because it was getting a little warm for me. But honestly, the whole way it felt great. Um, Talking about the race, like what went well for you? What out of the whole 26 miles, what went well? What do you think went well?
So the smartest thing I did was when I decided to not run for time was to
Yeah.
not time myself, which sounds easy enough,
Hmm.
but typically you'd be like, oh well, this doesn't matter that much, but I'm still going to time it just for myself.
Yeah.
Not having that at all
Yeah.
was great because at no point did I have any idea how fast I was running or what my projected finish time was. Like
Yeah.
it was 100%. I could do nothing but run by feel and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
So that went really well. At no point did I feel pressure to pick up the pace or anything. Pressure that would come from myself and
Yeah.
nobody else. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so that went really well. I met a few people from the same charity I was
Okay.
running with on the course. So I ran this one for Team for Kids
Hmm.
through the New York Roadrunners,
Yeah.
and that's what I'm running New York City next month with as well.
Nice.
And I didn't realize that most people running for that charity are New Yorkers. So everybody that I met on the course all lived in New York, and they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, from? You're not from there.
Yeah.
And they seemed to know each other and stuff. So that part was cool. I met a few of them on the course. Um, the course itself was very cool. The
Yeah.
crowd support was awesome.
Hmm.
Um, the weather was really nice.
Yeah.
I have this jacket. It's this Brooks canopy jacket, and
Hmm.
I wore it to the start, and then it folds up in like it folds up into itself. It has this thing, and you could shove it
Yeah.
all in there. And it was tiny. It was so small that I fit it in my fanny pack that I wore while
Oh,
I was
wow.
running. So
Wow.
that was good because I completely forgot to bring any sort of throwaway sweats, and I
Hmm.
did not want to throw that away or wear it for 26 miles.
Yeah.
So that went well. Um, Fueling went well. You know, I typically fuel every 5K. And which I mean is easy enough in mile marathons.
Yeah.
Because usually there's 5, 10, 15K anyways, but it's even easier in kilometer marathons because
Yeah.
obviously you can't miss that at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And that was another thing I actually really liked was running kilometers. Just mentally, it just made it go by faster.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's the exact same distance
Hmm.
as a marathon in America,
Yeah.
but it just it just felt like it went by faster
I agree.
because, you know, instead of it being 11 minutes between because I ended up averaging about 11-minute miles, and instead of
Hmm.
it being 11 minutes between miles, it's more like 7. And
Yeah.
so it just flew by a lot
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was not ready for it. This is the first time I've ever ran a race that was in kilometers, where
Yeah,
everything,
me too.
the visuals are in kilometers, but it made it easy. And I usually, when I run a race, with that's in miles, obviously, because they're US races, I usually do break it down in 5Ks. Like every
Yeah,
3 miles, I'll tell myself, okay, 5K, time to, take this, take that, whatever I'm taking.
yeah.
And so being able to visualize that, it made it easy for me to remember as well what to take. So the game plan for me was to take a gel in the morning, 30 minutes before the race, and then at 5K take some salt sticks, some salt tabs, and then at the same time take obviously hydration with it, and do that stagger between every 5 Ks between my gels, my chews, and I
Yeah.
even brought some food. I brought the honey stinger waffles, which I cut them in
Oh,
little
yeah.
pizza shapes, and I
Yeah.
would take some of that as well, because obviously all these other stuff, the gels, the chews, are good, but you ultimately, food is what I need, the fuel
Yeah.
that actually would give me all those carbs and whatnot. And that for me went well. It has went very well, the best that it's ever gone. Because I usually, I guess I'll blame it on my ADHD. I'll forget to take this. I forget what I took the last 3 miles or something like that. But this
Yeah.
time around, it everything went well. Everything went as planned. I did realize that I didn't need to take more of the salt tabs. I was taking very little because, or I wasn't taking them at the right time.
Yeah.
Because when I started cramping, it was kind of at that point when you're already starting to cramp, there's nothing you can do to take for it to instantly go away.
Yeah.
So, but that even went well for me in a positive way. Went well because the last time I ran a marathon, I literally got cramps like in around like mile 16. So
Oh,
so
okay.
going from 16 to 21, that is a big improvement.
Oh,
There's,
definitely.
yeah, there's still some work to do, which I'm okay with, but it definitely was a humbling experience to run this race for sure. Um, like I mentioned earlier, this was my first time in Europe in general,
Yeah.
so being able to run that the first time and being in a complete different country that I'm used to was a eye-opening experience. Um, I did put a little bit pressure on me because I was, you know, worried that I would not finish a race. I was like, what if I don't finish this race? And I flew across the world for this. Like
Yeah.
it definitely was in my mind leading up to this race. But then once I was there and I was running, I told myself, well, this is just like you running in Houston, a race in Houston, a race anywhere. It's the same thing, just, a little bit of a different
It's
setting,
a
but
different continent.
yeah, exactly. And it helped me out to ease my mind, my mental aspect of the race. But I definitely would do it again. I don't know about you. I definitely would do it again. After maybe I do all the other majors, I really want to concentrate on getting the other ones.
Yeah.
But talking about what went well, what went wrong, what did you feel that didn't go as planned? Um, other than not I understand that you decided you weren't going to try to PR, but
Yeah.
what do you think?
That's on me.
Oh no, but that's okay.
Yeah.
But what do you think could have gone better? I guess in your race.
Um, so a couple things. Not having cell phone service and not planning for that wasn't
Hmm.
great. Obviously, it's not like they're gonna put up new cell towers, but I probably should have planned for that. So going into New York City, like
Hmm.
having meeting spots for with friends beforehand and then
Hmm.
having meeting spots with my family afterwards
Hmm.
already set up. Because when I did finish, I had no service and so I sent my husband, and I couldn't tell if any of these were sending because they turn, you send the iPhone one and it's supposed to be blue. These ones all turned green, but they didn't say they weren't delivered, so I couldn't tell if they were, if he was getting them because I was getting nothing from him.
Yeah.
And so I just went and I just sat down at the family meeting thing under B for my last name,
Okay.
and I sent him a thing that said I was there, and I just sat and hoped that he would eventually get there, and he did. But so that's something on me
Hmm.
moving forward for races of that size. To figure those logistics out beforehand, because if those texts weren't sent, then I'd probably still be sitting there, and who knows how I would have gotten home.
Yeah, yeah. That's very important. We wouldn't be
Yeah,
doing this podcast. Well, maybe you in Germany and me over here in the
yeah,
United
yeah.
States, but
I would be a German citizen at this point. Because once I sat on the ground, I was not moving until he got there, and if he never came, then
then you're staying
who
there.
knows
You're
what I would be
staying
doing
there.
today.
Oh my
So
God.
that's something going into New York that I am going to plan for with my family because my husband and my kids and my parents are all going to be there.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, so making sure that we have that figured out beforehand.
Yeah.
The other thing, the aid stations were not the best organization. Um, Especially they were all on one side of the
Yes.
street,
Yes.
and that made things really difficult.
Yes.
They also seemed to come out of nowhere. Like they it said, oh, every 5K. So I was expecting it to be, you would
Mm-hmm.
hit the 5, the 10, whatever, and then it to be soon after. But sometimes it was right before,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it was just at random other
Yeah.
intervals. And I guess that was on the course map, but
Yeah.
I did not memorize that.
Yeah.
Um, and so they would kind of come out of nowhere. And if you're on the wrong, and it wasn't always on the right side, like it was like which
Yeah.
side it was
Random.
going to be
Yeah.
varied.
Yeah.
Um, and then they would have tea, and I really don't want that. That's
I
that's
I
not
tried
something I
it.
want to.
It was horrible. I don't even
Yeah,
like tea to
that's
begin with. I'm
I
sorry,
don't
but I
like tea
don't.
either. So I that's just not something I want. And so if you miss the water and you miss the sports drink and like all you have is tea, it's like, oh no. Um,
But what was the
uh,
sports drink? That's a good question because I
it was
tried one.
Morton Martin. It was the same one that did the gels. It was their sports drink,
Oh, okay,
which
okay.
is my least favorite brand.
Yeah,
In the
same.
first place. I did not have any of the gels, but oh, that was another thing. The part where they were handing out the gels, the
Yes, yes.
entire ground was so
Sticky,
sticky.
yes.
You could just hear everyone's feet like sticking and flopping and
Yeah,
everything. It was
yeah.
so incredibly bad.
Yes,
Um,
yes. And after you passed through that section, it I felt like the stickiness stayed all the
oh
way,
yeah,
almost
it
through the
did.
whole thing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that I might be very picky, but that
No,
really,
it was
really
awful.
threw me off. It threw me
Yeah.
off for a bit,
Yeah,
hearing it.
you
And
just hear every single person. You feel your feet sticking and stuff. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that was not great.
yeah,
So the aid stations in general were not fantastic.
yeah.
They were one of the worst of any race that I've
I
had.
agree. I
They
agree.
were better than the races where they run out of water.
Yeah,
So luckily that was not the case. I will
yeah,
give them that. They did
yeah,
not run out.
Hmm.
Um, and I couldn't tell exactly if they were reusing the cups or if they were recycling them or whatever, because they had bins to put the empty ones on.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure about that. So that kind of got in the way because people are throwing them to get into the bins and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I kind of
Um,
had the same when I was running. I kind of thought I was like, are they recycling them? So I thought the same thing, but
yeah,
I couldn't tell either. But yeah, I've done several marathons, and the one thing that I feel when you're kind of in the middle, back in the pack, you kind of start seeing that there's not a lot of water options in the
yeah,
races. So on a positive thing, yes,
yeah,
it felt like they were always pretty much full, all the
yes,
time. The sports drink, I tried it once because I thought it was water because it looked clear.
yeah.
And when I tried it, I was like, what the hell is this? And at first I thought that was a tea. But
Oh,
then I
yeah,
finally saw the tea and I saw it. I was like, no, no way in hell I'm going to take
yeah.
that. That's just not, no. It's
Yeah, I don't
gonna,
know if that's a European thing. I don't know if that's a
I think
German
it
thing.
is. I
I
think
don't
it's a
know.
European thing in general, but
Yeah,
it definitely the aid stations, most of the races I've done, they have them on both sides.
yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah. Me too.
and,
Even
and,
like even ones way smaller than this. I mean,
hmm
obviously not
hmm
like the super small
yeah,
like local races, but
yeah,
even things with only 5,000 people, they'll have
yeah,
on both sides, and this is
yeah.
10 times that much.
Yeah, and that threw me off a little bit because you are right. If you miss the water station, then it kind of like as a runner, I feel it throws you off,
It does.
you
Oh yeah.
know? And one thing that I learned when because I'm part of a Facebook group that is for Berlin, and they kind of threw a whole bunch of cool things to do, what not to do, and stuff like that. So
Oh,
that
okay.
really helped out. And they were talking about how horrible it was to have your own drinks and have them on these specific aid stations
Oh
because
yeah.
there was supposed to be too many and it was going to make you lose time. But then when I
Mhm.
started running, it wasn't too bad. Maybe
No.
because I was already kind of in the middle of the pack and a lot of people had already passed, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I
I
think a lot
noticed,
of people just don't do it. Like
yeah,
the hassle of setting it up.
yeah, I think it might be the case. But um, obviously, I'm not an elite runner, so I don't worry too much about that. I
Yeah.
feel that the people that are trying to PR or trying to run really, really fast, I guess, are the ones that really took advantage of that. But
Yeah.
honestly, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad,
No.
and it might be an idea for me to try. Maybe bring my own Gatorades or something and fill them up and try that. But that I thought was very cool. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. But in me personally, what went wrong for me is I had a game plan. I had a game plan to start around 10:15, 10:30 at the beginning. Keep that pace until half marathon. And then for
Hmm.
the half marathon, just start increasing my pace by like 5, 10 seconds
Yeah.
until getting to what would have been mile 20, which, that's
Hmm.
where the real race starts.
Yeah.
And then kind of look at my situation, see how I was feeling, and if I still felt that I had enough gas in the tank, then push every mile a
Yeah.
little bit more until I hit like mile 24, and then from there it's just whatever you got, throw it out there and
Yeah.
run as much as you can, I guess. I did not do that. I came out, my first mile was like 9:40, 9:30,
Yeah.
and it stayed at that pace for the most part all the way to like mile 17. And then I started realizing, yeah, I should have conserved a little bit.
Yeah.
And then about mile 19 I started feeling kind of that pre-cramp
Yeah.
phase where you can feel the muscle already kind of getting
Yeah.
tense. And at that point, I told myself, there's nothing I can do. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be able to stop this. It's going to come. So I decided just to run a conservative, moderate pace. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm going to run as much as I can until my leg just says, cramp,
Yeah.
it's cramp time, So I did that till mile 21. And then from there, I kind of speed walked until I felt like my leg kind of eased out. And then I ran a little bit, walked and ran.
Yeah.
But the funniest part about this part is when I got right, where you get to the carpet, where it's maybe 100
Yeah.
feet, something like
Yeah.
that from the finish line. I told myself, just run, don't stop. until you hit the finish line. And then whatever happens to your leg, you cramp out, you
Yeah.
cry because your leg hurts, you break your leg, whatever
Yeah.
happens, you're done. I got to that carpet and like I stopped, my legs stopped working right where the carpet started. And there's
Oh
a
no.
picture where it shows one of the race pictures, it shows where it literally stopped and I could not move my leg. Like
Oh
I could
no.
not move it at all. And I remember some guy came up to me and he said, "Are you okay? You want me to help you?" I was like, "No, you finish your race. I will finish my race. I just need to, you know,
Yeah.
take a couple
Oh
seconds here."
wow.
And I ended up limping in, like I couldn't even run.
Yeah.
I limped all the way in, and you could tell in my pictures that I was so mad because the last I have a good friend that always would tell me on races, when you see that finish line, you give it everything you got. You just run as hard as you can, as
Yeah.
much as you can until you pass that line. So I always do that in my races.
Yeah.
I
I mean, to be
finish them.
fair, it sounds like you still did. You still did everything you could.
Yeah.
It just wasn't what you were hoping it was going to
Yeah,
be.
and like it's what I guess it's in the category of what went wrong, but it
Yeah.
also is kind of awesome that it
Yeah.
happened that way because it still
Yeah. If that had
showed me.
happened too much sooner, then
Yeah. Imagine if that would have happened a mile away or something, or
yeah.
2 miles away or something like that. So there's always a good part about it,
Yeah.
but it's definitely for me has been one of those hard races. It's been for me, honestly, it's the hardest one I've ever ran.
Yeah.
And I've ran New York twice, which is very uh hard. It's a hard race because of the
Yeah.
elevation, but
Yeah.
it definitely was one of those that made me realize how much I love marathon runs.
Yeah.
you know it really made me realize I definitely want to continue running more marathons as long as my
Yeah.
legs allow me to do it, for sure. But
Absolutely.
what did you take out of this marathon, this race, the experience that you had?
Um, as much as I wanted to PR, I'm very happy with my choice to take it easy. It was by far the easiest marathon I've ever run.
Hmm.
Mostly for that reason. Obviously, at no point was I really pushing the pace. It wasn't a jogging thing. If I was going truly easy, it would have taken a lot longer.
Hmm.
But it was just a comfortable, moderate pace the entire time, and that was really cool. And I think that this was my sixth marathon,
Nice.
and I think if it was too much before that, I wouldn't have been comfortable doing that. I ended up,
Yeah.
this was my slowest marathon besides the one that I ran unknowingly with COVID.
Yeah.
Because that one's its like own thing. That one it was the closest I've ever been to death. It was awful.
Oh my God.
But besides that race, this was my slowest. This is the only one. I ended up in 5 hours and 59 seconds. So pretty much exactly 5 hours.
Hmm.
And it's the only race that's taken me over 5 hours, besides the COVID one. And I was very happy with being able to mentally accept that, like,
Yeah.
not just say, "Oh, I'm just doing this for fun," but actually do it and actually
Yeah.
like be okay with that.
Yeah.
So I was that felt like kind of a personal milestone for me, which is different than typically what you usually take away from that stuff. But just being able
Yeah.
to be at this thing, enjoy my trip leading up to it, and just let go of expectations and just run it for fun. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And I love the medal. I think the medal's really fun. I I liked the landmarks and stuff that were all right there. Like
Hmm.
if I had if I was confident on my ability to find my husband, then I would have walked around a little bit more and taken more pictures in different places. I got one in front of that government building that's right there when the
Yeah.
finish shoot
Oh
lets
yeah. Yeah.
out. But other than that, I didn't go back to the big gates or anything like that. Because I had no idea if or when I would ever find my husband again.
Yeah.
But there was like the actual area, the general area where you finish had so many great places for photo opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really liked that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, But overall, it was a very cool experience.
It was. Yeah. No, I agree. It for me being the first time in Europe again and first time on I feel like a true destination race just because it's
Yeah,
completely outside of the
yeah,
United States, and whatnot. It definitely went well. If I had to grade it between 1 to 10, 10 being the best, one being the worst, it's definitely a solid eight, 8.5 for me.
yeah. I
Um,
would agree.
just just the only reason I wouldn't be able to give it a 10 just because of the small little things like the water station and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And another, I don't know if you noticed or you saw on social media that some people got the wrong medals.
No, what?
Yeah, yeah. There was three medals that they were giving out. One for marathoners, runners, the inline skaters, which was a day before,
Yeah.
and then volunteers got medals. I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
So on race day, they were handing out the medals, and some people got it's the same medal that we got, but instead of saying September 29th, it said September 28th, which the reason
Oh,
why is because
that's
those
the
are the
dating one.
inlines. Yeah.
Okay.
And I later found out why. So believe it or not, there's some shady runners that will grab a medal, then go to another station where they're giving out medals, get another medal, and then do it at the same time because there was different areas where you can get medals. It was just
So
not
what's the
like
goal? What's
one.
the goal of that? Like just to have extras?
eBay,
Do they sell those? Oh my God.
eBay.
And
Yeah,
who
because
who goes and buys a medal on eBay?
I don't
Like,
know. I don't know, but it's funny that that happened because I've seen Boston Marathon medals on eBay too.
it's so weird. Like who would buy that? Like, I mean, I guess if somehow I like lost mine, like I would
Yeah,
I would probably go and try to find a replacement of it. Like if it was a race that I actually ran and something
yeah,
had happened to the medal, but that's like super specific, and
yeah,
I can't think of any other reason at all why somebody
yeah.
would want
It's
that.
it's ridiculous, and and it's not a, and I'm not. I want to make sure that I say it correctly. I'm not saying it's the bad thing on the Berlin Marathon, the people that put it up, because it's such a big race. It's hard to pinpoint.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
you got a medal, you can't get another one, right? It's hard.
Yeah.
It's 54,000 people finishing, so it's hard.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say that I loved about it that they acknowledged this and they posted something I think on their social media and they said if you were one of them that got either a volunteer medal or an inline skater medal, we will send you the right medal with the engraving free of charge.
Oh,
So
that's
they at
cool.
least made it up. They made it up, and
Yeah.
that's really, really cool that they did. But I guess it's bad on the people that did it that took more than one medal,
Yeah.
because
It's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. You're running out there for X amount of time, and you want to get your right medal, and then you finish, and you're like, it's a
Yeah.
medal, but it's not my medal, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, that was a bad part there, but that's one of the reasons I guess I'm not giving it a full 9 or 10. But
Yeah.
I will do it again. I will do it sometime again, maybe after I finish all my other majors. But it's definitely a great experience. It's a great atmosphere. People were nice. I never felt there was any issues with the runners, or any issues with the volunteers. The crowd support again was very, very good, which really helps out when you're struggling, especially, so it's awesome. And the beautiful, before you get to the finish, when you get to the gates, the
Oh yeah.
Brandenburg gates, it's amazing. It's what I thought and more.
Yeah.
But it's an awesome race and definitely recommend someone doing it again. If you're on the fence doing your first race, I think this is a good race for the first timers as well
Yeah.
because it's so flat and it's such a great race. Um, Talking about recommendations, Hillary, what would be your recommendation to somebody that wants to do it but is kind of like on the fence?
Looking to charities for it. I
Mhm.
think and that's how that's probably how I'm gonna get all 6 5 stars. And that's
Same.
currently my plan unless something crazy happens. It just kind of adds to the experience and
Yes.
everything. So that would be my biggest advice.
Yeah.
It's also a good starting point for charity runners because the minimum is a lot lower than some of the other majors. So
Nice.
for Boston, it's like $10,000 minimum, or some of them are even more than that.
Mm-hmm.
11 or 12,000.
Yeah.
And for Berlin, I had to raise 2,600.
Yeah.
And so, not a small amount. It's not an insignificant, just put it on a credit card amount, but it was definitely not as daunting as if you're looking at some of those where it's five or $10,000. So,
Yeah.
and then yeah, again, combining the lower minimum on the charity side with the more doable course.
Yeah.
Um, and I like hilly courses, but I know a lot of people really like the flat ones.
Yeah.
And so I think the combination between the two of those, it's a really good um, marathon for if you are thinking of doing your first marathon. It also has a pretty generous time limit.
Yeah.
So you can finish in over 6 hours. So I think
Yeah.
6:15 is the
Yeah.
limit, which is more than 30 seconds per mile slower than the limit for Boston.
Yeah.
I'm not sure of what it is for all of them, but I just know specifically those two
Yeah.
because those are the ones I've run. Um, so, but yeah, I would definitely recommend at least considering. Obviously, there's always going to be the lottery for that one, but
Of
I
course.
would definitely recommend that people consider running that one for charity because it's a really cool experience being able to um, you know greater good in addition to this fantastic race.
I couldn't have said it any better. I am a charity runner for basically all of my marathon races, including Houston. I do it for a local charity, which is Team Catapult. So
Oh,
I
awesome.
definitely I'm a big advocate on that, just because it adds up a little bit extra to your run.
Yeah,
When you're running for a charity, it just feels like you're running for them or for somebody that, for like Team for Kids. I've
it's
done it for
bigger
Team
than
for
yourself.
Kids.
It's not
Yeah.
just this
Yeah.
is my race. it's
Yeah.
it's yeah.
It adds a little pressure, but a good pressure, I think. But definitely, I my recommendation is the same. If you want to run this, really consider doing it through Team for Kids or whichever charity you find that you have a connection to,
Yeah.
as well. But it definitely adds up that little extra for your race, and regardless of what people say, I know there's a lot of haters out there that say, "Hey, you're running for charity is like whatever. It doesn't count." It does
But the
count.
thing is, they're
It does count.
wrong. Is
Yeah.
the yeah the thing is that their opinion is objectively wrong.
Hmm.
And that is because all of these major races do not have one big pool of entries where, if people want to qualify, then they have to compete against charity runners to get those spaces. It is a completely different pool. And I want to make
Yeah.
that completely clear to
Yeah.
people that you're not taking anyone's spot at all.
Hmm.
And in addition to that, even more than qualifying. I mean, qualifying if you have the ability to do so, that's
Of course.
fantastic.
Of course.
But you run that, and that's your race. And this is
Hmm.
is bigger than that. Running for charity is bigger than that. And you also do the work in addition to training to be able to run for
Yeah.
26 miles,
Yeah.
26.2 miles. You're also out there raising money. So
Yeah.
I will go off on that and why anybody who has that opinion is not just dumb but incorrect
Yeah.
in all of it.
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. It's not easy, you know.
Yeah.
And luckily I got a lot of good friends that have done like Boston. Even they've done Boston and they can easily qualify with their time,
Yeah.
and they still do charity,
Yeah. Because
and
I mean
that's awesome.
it's yeah, I mean it makes it such a more meaningful experience. And it's awesome. Like it really is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Hillary, definitely don't want to take too much of your time on this special little episode that we have here. What are your final thoughts on Berlin? What are your final thoughts on just everything that happened on your trip and everything that happened on your race? What do you think?
final thoughts, I feel like I've gotten more of a destination race travel bug. So I'm definitely thinking more about London and Tokyo now than I
Hmm.
was before because in before this race, it was something that I always knew I wanted to do, but it was kind of like I couldn't even picture it. And now that
Yeah,
I'm like, oh wow, I've gone this far, I've run this race, I've raised this money, I've made this happen. The thought of going to the United Kingdom or even Japan like doesn't sound as insane as it did
yeah,
before. So
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm definitely on the 6 star train and probably gonna go after that a little faster than I had originally anticipated.
Yeah, me too. I have the same thoughts. I already had the 6 star kind of bug since the Chicago when I got the first one, and then that's when I found out that there was this thing called 6 star major, and then I saw the medal there at the expo, and that got me into the 6 star medal bug. But now that I actually did one in Europe, and I saw how cool it is, and everything about it, now I'm really interested in kind of making that happen much faster as well.
Yeah.
I already told my fiance, unfortunately, next year I can't run any outside races because we're getting married. Finally,
Oh, unfortunately.
unfortunately, yeah. She knows when I say unfortunately, it's because I'm a big racer. I love to race. I
Yeah.
love to run. So when
Yeah.
you tell me you can't run another race out of town, it's like telling a kid you can't have that chocolate that you love. So
Yeah.
so
No, I get that.
she'll understand. She'll understand. But yeah, we're getting married next year, God willing, and then 2026. I told her I don't care if I don't get in the lottery. I'm doing the charity side. I'm going to run London for sure in 2026. And so she said, "Okay, let's start saving for that new trip." I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome." So that's my plan. 2026, I'll revamp the whole race marathon racing. Sorry, but yeah, my final thoughts is it's a great race. I love it. I got that bug, like you said again. But now looking forward to the next chapter of my racing. For me, it's Houston. It's a hometown race, obviously for me, and I'm already training for that. Like I said, I'm doing the charity for Team Catapult. So if someone wants to donate, please donate through my Instagram. But what do you have planned? Are you running Houston?
I'm in Houston. So
Okay.
I have New York City,
Mm-hmm.
obviously in just a couple weeks. I have no
Yes.
idea how that's going to go, just because I didn't have a training plan after Berlin.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of been running, um, not incredibly organized since then. Um, and then after that, then get back to training, hopefully have a solid run in Houston.
Nice, 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 nice. And if
I
you
mean, Houston, I don't have to go sightsee.
you already know, you've been here once,
Yeah,
you already know. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
So I can go into that with fresh legs. So
Yeah.
that's what I have going for me with that one.
And if you want to run with me, I'm down to running
Oh yeah,
together. I'm not going for any PR. I'm definitely this is more of a fun race. I want to finish
yeah,
it at good time, of course, but
yeah,
not gonna put any pressure. Not gonna put any pressure on me on how it's gonna go. But yeah, yeah, I definitely don't have to go sightseeing. I've seen it every
yeah.
day. But yeah, if you ever want some pointers on New York, I can give you some pointers, especially on where to meet up because I learned that
Yes,
one for
please.
sure. But yeah, I'll send you a little bit of information that I've learned
Awesome.
from mine. But other than that, Hillary, thank you very much for being here. Berlin again was awesome as we talked, and hopefully we can do another recap maybe for New York or Houston when we both run it in Houston. So
Yeah, yeah.
for
Let's do
sure,
it.
for sure, for sure. Well, thank you very much again, Hillary. Have a great day and good luck in New York.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye bye.